It is morning and the pan is too hot, and you crack the egg against the rim and it hisses and spits the moment it touches the metal. The edges go brown and lacy and hard almost at once. The bottom grips the pan and will not let go. You push at it with the spatula, the yolk tears, and the gold runs out and cooks into a dry, flat sheet before you can save it. You scrape the sad thing onto the plate, rubbery at the edges, tough underneath, a little pool of oil left shining behind. You eat it because it is breakfast, and you tell yourself that is simply how eggs are. Let me say it plainly. That is not how eggs are. That is how eggs break when we are rough with them. Come with me into my kitchen. My wife Yuki stands at the stove with a small pot of water. It is not boiling, it is barely steaming, so still the surface hardly moves, not one bubble breaking through. She lowers a whole egg into it with a spoon, gently, the way you would set down a sleeping child. A few quiet minutes pass, and what she cracks into a bowl is something you may never have tasted. A white, soft, and just set, tender as the finest custard, and a yolk warm and thick and flowing, like honey poured slow. No brown edges, no hiss, no rubber, no oil at all. It cost her nothing but the egg, and it took the same few minutes you spend fighting one in a screaming pan. The trouble with the fried egg is not the egg. Understand that first, for it changes everything. The egg is perhaps the most perfect, most honest, most inexpensive food there is. A dozen eggs, 30 or 40 cents apiece, each one a small sealed pocket of complete nourishment, packed inside a shell you can hold between two fingers. There is almost nothing else in your whole kitchen so good, so cheap, so complete. The trouble is not the egg. The trouble is the heat, and the oil, and the hurry. A screaming hot pan and a splash of oil is the roughest way human beings have ever found to treat something so gentle. Think of it plainly. We take one of the most delicate foods there is, throw it onto burning metal, and then wonder why it comes out tough. We punish it, and then we blame it for crying out. For most of my long life, I have watched people in a hurry do this every single morning, and never once stopped to ask if there might be a kinder way. There is. There always was. Think, too, of what that rough habit quietly costs you, year after year. The oil, or the butter, a little poured into the pan every day, that is money, a bottle at a time, and it is not nothing to your body either, all that added fat across the decades. The eggs scorched past saving and scraped into the bin. The non-stick pan whose slick coating wears thin and flakes away, so every year or two you buy another. Small costs, each one forgettable. But small leaks, as the old people say, are how a boat goes down. Add them across the years, and you have paid a real price, in money and in health, for the worst version of a wonderful food. Here in Japan, we do not treat an egg that way. We treat it with respect, the way you treat something precious that has been given to you. We have ways of cooking an egg that are gentle, that coax it instead of forcing it, that draw out a softness most people in the West have never once tasted and never knew an egg could hold. These ways are old. They are simple. A child can learn them. And once you learn even one, plainly, I do not believe you will ever go back to the hot pan and the hard brown edges. My name is Kenji Takara. I am 81 years old, and I live in Okinawa, in the south of Japan, where people have long lived very long lives, and where the plainest foods, treated with care, have fed strong lives for generations. Yuki has cooked eggs this gentle way since she was a small girl on a stool at the stove. Her mother taught her, and her mother's mother before that, in kitchens with no spray oil and no pans that wear out, because none of those things were ever needed. There was an egg. There was a pot of water. There was patience. That was always enough. And here is the quiet truth. The makers of oils and sprays and non-stick pans would rather you never learn. There is no money in teaching you that an egg needs no oil, no special pan, and no fierce heat, only gentleness and a few minutes. There is a great deal of money in selling you the bottle, the spray, and the coated pan you must replace as its surface peels away. They are not wicked people. They are simply selling you things, as sellers do. They are only counting on you, never discovering that the best way needs almost nothing that they sell. Quick word before I begin, and I won't bring it up again. Everything I share here, there's far more of it than fits in one video. So I gathered it all into one book, the Takara method. And right now I'm keeping it at a special price, lower than it'll normally be. The link's in the description, or point your phone at the code on screen. That's all. Now let me show you today's. By the end of this video, you will know 3 gentle Japanese ways to cook an egg. A soft, custard-like egg cooked slowly in barely steaming water. A silky steamed egg, soft enough to eat with a spoon. And the tender folded omelet we make here. Each one better and far more forgiving than the fried egg you have fought every morning. I will show you the simple science of why gentleness works, the exact method for each, the honest warnings on freshness and safety, and how much you will save in a year by setting the oil bottle down. So let us begin. And the first thing to understand is the single idea underneath all 3 methods, the one that changes everything the moment you feel it. An egg does not need force. It needs warmth, and it needs patience. Let me show you what I mean, starting with the simplest of the 3, the one that is almost impossible to ruin. First, the science, plainly. Why does gentle heat make an egg tender, while fierce heat makes it tough? Understand this one thing, and you will never ruin an egg again as long as you live. An egg is mostly protein and water. That is nearly the whole of it. And once you understand what heat does to that protein, you understand everything about cooking an egg well. Think of the proteins inside an egg as countless tiny coils, loosely folded, floating quietly in water. When you warm them slowly and gently, those coils relax. They unfold and reach out and link softly to one another, and as they join, they form a delicate, tender net that holds the water gently inside it. That soft, water-holding net is a perfectly cooked egg, moist, custardy, silken on the tongue. That is what gentleness builds. But strike those same proteins with fierce high heat, and something very different happens. They do not relax. They seize. They clench all at once, hard and tight, and as they clench, they wring the water out from between them, the way you wring water from a cloth. That squeezing is exactly the hiss and spit you hear in a hot pan, the sound of the egg losing its water to the heat, and what is left, once the water is driven off, is tough, rubbery, and dry. Not because the egg was poor, because the egg was forced. That is the whole secret, and it is not really a secret at all, only something most people were never told. Gentle heat lets the egg set softly and keep its water. Harsh heat makes it clench and weep its water away. Tenderness is not luck. It is lower heat and a little patience. Once you know that, plainly, you are free of the tough egg forever. And there is a second, beautiful thing these methods lean upon. The yolk and the white do not set at the same temperature. The yolk begins to thicken and grow creamy at a lower heat then the white needs to become fully firm. That small difference is a doorway. The doorway to the most prized egg we make here, where the white is just tenderly set and the yolk stays thick, warm, and creamy, almost like a sauce. You cannot pass through that door with a screaming pan. It cooks everything hard at once and slams the door shut. You reach that place only slowly, gently. All three methods are simply ways of walking gently through that same door. Now what you need? Almost nothing. And that is the beauty of it. You need eggs, fresh ones, and I will show you how to test that in a moment, because these methods cook the egg softer than a hard-fried egg, so freshness matters more here. Being honest about that is how I keep your trust. You need a small pot of water. For one method, a bowl and something to steam with. A covered pot with a plate inside will do. For the omelet, any pan you own and the barest wipe of oil, not a pool to fry in. That is the whole list. No special equipment, no non-stick pan to replace, no sprays. The poorest kitchen already holds everything these methods ask for. Now, the three methods, one at a time. The first, the slow, soft egg in barely steaming water, the gentlest of the three, and the one to try first, because it asks no skill, only that you keep the water calm and watch the clock. Bring a small pot of water toward a simmer, then turn the heat low until the water is only steaming, barely a bubble breaking the surface. This is the heart of it. The water must be hot but calm, not rolling, not churning. A hard boil would knock the egg about and cook it tough. You want stillness. Lower a whole egg in its shell into the calm water with a spoon so it does not crack against the bottom. Then wait for a soft, custardy yolk and a just set white, about 6 minutes. For a firmer but still moist yolk, 7 or 8. Lift it out. If you want to peel it or eat it cool, set it in cold water a minute. What you have is an egg cooked slowly and evenly, tender from edge to center, with no rubber at all. Crack it into a bowl, add a few drops of soy sauce, and eat it over hot rice. That simple dish is breakfast in millions of homes across Japan, and it costs 1 egg, a pot of water, and 7 quiet minutes. Let me place one quiet thing here. The way Yuki keeps a small notebook by her stove, where she has written the exact minutes that give each of us the egg we love best. 6 for our granddaughter's flowing yolk, 8 for mine on a cold morning. She wrote them down until her hand knew them. Keep your own small record. Your eye will learn it, and the paper will hold it until it does. The second, the silky steamed egg. This one will surprise you most, for it turns plain eggs into a soft, savory custard, smooth and trembling, soft enough to eat with a spoon. Here we call it chawanmushi. Beat 2 eggs gently, so you do not whip air into them, only blend yolk and white smooth. Now measure, for this lives or dies on a ratio. For each egg, add about 3 times its volume of liquid, dashi, that gentle sea broth, or a mild light broth, cooled until it is no longer hot. So 2 eggs, roughly 1.5 cups of cool broth. Season with a few drops of soy sauce and a pinch of salt. Then, the one step that makes the difference between silk and lumps, pour the mixture through a fine strainer, so what remains is perfectly smooth. Pour it into cups. Set them in a steamer, or in a covered pot holding an inch of gently simmering water with a plate laid down for the cups to rest on. Keep the heat low and the steam gentle, and leave the lid slightly ajar, a crack open, so the heat stays soft. Steam about 10 to 12 minutes until just set with a gentle wobble at the center. And here, plainly, is the same lesson again. Too hard and too hot, and the custard turns coarse, full of holes, and weeps water. Low and slow gives silk. The egg tells you the same thing in every method. Be gentle. Into these, before steaming, you may hide small treasures, a shrimp, a slice of mushroom, a few peas, a scrap of chicken. A beautiful way to use up the lonely bits of a kitchen, which is matanai itself. The third, the folded omelet. Here we make a rolled, layered omelet called tamagoyaki. The traditional pan is square, but any round pan will do, and it comes out far more tender than a fried egg, because again, we use gentle heat and keep the egg moving. Beat 2 or 3 eggs with a small spoon of sugar, a few drops of soy sauce, and if you have it, a spoon of dashi for tenderness. Warm a pan over medium-low heat. Low, always low. Wipe it with an oiled paper, the barest film, just enough that the egg will not stick. Pour in a thin layer. As it begins to set but is still glossy on top, roll or fold it to one side. Wipe the pan again. Pour another thin layer, let it set, and roll it up around the first, building soft layers, one wrapped around the next. A few minutes in all. Because the heat stayed gentle and the egg kept moving, it never browns hard, never turns to rubber. It comes out soft, layered, faintly sweet, tender enough to cut with a chopstick. Children love it, and it is as good cold in a lunch as warm from the pan. Let me pause here, the way I would if you stood beside me. The honest scope. What can go wrong? For your safety matters far more than any breakfast. These gentle methods cook the egg softer, less thoroughly, than a hard fried egg. That soft yolk is a joy, but it is not right for everyone. There live, rarely but truly, bacteria an egg can carry, and thorough cooking makes them harmless. So if you are very old, very young, carrying a child, or unwell, cook your eggs until both white and yolk are fully firm. That is not a small caution. Please take it to heart and share it with those you cook for. For everyone, 3 honest rules. First, use fresh, clean, whole eggs, never one cracked or dirty in the shell, for a broken shell is an open door. Second, a simple freshness test that costs nothing. Lower the egg into a tall glass of water. A very fresh egg sinks and lies flat on its side. An older egg stands on end. One that floats is too old. Do not use it. Third, do not let cooked eggs, especially the steamed custard, sit out warm for hours. Eat them fresh, or cool and refrigerate promptly, and eat within a day or two. And the plain rule above all, if an egg smells of sulfur or anything foul when you crack it, throw it out at once. Your nose has never lied to you about a bad egg. Now, matanai, the heart of all this. Using the whole egg, wasting nothing. An egg is already a small miracle of thrift, a whole meal sealed in a shell for a few coins. But even here there is thrift to find. When a recipe uses only yolks, do not pour the whites away. They keep several days in a covered cup and make a light omelet or go into a soup. When you use only whites, the yolk keeps too and enriches a bowl of rice or a sauce. Even the shells, rinsed and crushed, go to the garden soil. Yuki's grandmother dried and powdered them and gave them back to the very hens that laid the eggs, so the birds built strong shells again from what they had given. The circle closes. Nothing leaves it. That is matanai, not a rule on a wall, but a way of seeing. in which the end of one thing is quietly the beginning of another, and the gentle egg is the great friend of leftovers. That steamed custard hides yesterday's scrap of chicken, one shrimp, 3 peas, a lonely mushroom. The folded omelet wraps a spoon of cold rice or a handful of greens. A soft egg over plain leftover rice with a few drops of soy sauce becomes a warm and complete meal in a moment. The egg asks so little. It asks only to be treated gently, and in return, it stretches your whole kitchen further than you would believe. Now the honest math plainly. Think of what the hot pan habit costs across a year. The oil or butter, a little every morning, several bottles, $10, $15, $20 and more, and far more if you buy spray cans, the dearest way to buy oil there is. The non-stick pan that wears out and must be replaced every year or two, $30 or $40 each time, and the eggs scorched and scraped into the bin. Now the gentle way. For 2 of the 3 methods, no oil at all, no special pan, no spray, only eggs, at 30 or 40 cents each, a pot of water, and a few minutes. You save the oil, you save the pans, and you waste far fewer eggs, because a gentle method is forgiving, not a fortune, perhaps $30, $50, $70 in a year. But it is money you were burning every morning for a worse breakfast, and now you keep it, and eat better besides. So here is what I ask you to do this week. Just once. Do not reach for the pan and the oil. Bring a small pot of water to the gentlest steam, so it barely trembles, and lower in 1 egg, still in its shell. Leave it 6 or 7 minutes. Lift it out, crack it into a bowl over hot rice, and add a few drops of soy sauce. Taste how tender it is. That single quiet egg will tell you, better than all my words, everything this lesson was about. And tell me something in the comments. When you were young, how did your mother or grandmother cook an egg? Was there a way in your family? A soft-boiled egg in a little cup? An egg poached gently in soup that you have not tasted in years? Those small ways are exactly the wisdom that vanishes when no one writes it down. Share yours. I read every single one. Next time, since today we learn to treat the egg gently, I will show you how Yuki makes a full, warm bowl of miso soup to set beside it. The breakfast we begin so many mornings with here for just a few cents. The same care, the same gentle hand. Subscribe so you do not miss it. Until then, remember the whole of it in one breath. Set down the oil in the burning pan. Give the egg nothing but gentle warmth and a few minutes of patience. And the tough brown thing you settled for becomes at last the tender golden egg it was always meant to be.